Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu asyrafil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Academician Insinyur Dr. Ahmad Zaidi bin Laidin, Pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah UITM dan isteri. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Muhammad Ibrahim bin Muhammad Zain, Pengerusi Yayasan Arshad Ayub. Yang berbahagia Datuk Muhammad Azhari, Ahli Lembaga Pengarah UITM. We have been meeting, very often. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zaini Abdullah, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Jaringan Industri, Alumni dan Masyarakat. Pengurusan daripada Nadi Corp Holdings dan juga daripada Yayasan Arshad Ayub. Yang bahagia Profesor Azni Zain Ahmad, Penolong Naib Chancellor Institut Kepimpinan dan Pembangunan selaku penganjur bersama. Pengurusan kanan UITM, wakil pengurusan daripada Universiti Awam dan Swasta, profesor, pensyarah-pensyarah, pelajar-pelajar dan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang dihormati sekalian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Alhamdulillah, let's recite our gratitude to Allah SWT for making it possible for all of us to gather here this morning. I am grateful and honored by the invitation to be the speaker. I was told the third speaker for this lecture series organized by Yayasan Arshad Ayub. First and foremost, I would like to record my thanks and appreciation to Tan Sri Arshad Ayub, whom I met a couple of months ago, who requested me to be the speaker for today's lecture. For your information, Tan Sri Arshad Ayub, I met him for the first time in my life 45 years ago. I was doing my Malaysian Certificate of Education exam at that time. Okay, I just finished and I had a malaria. So I was worried about I did not do well in my MCE exam. So he was there, he was telling me, don't worry. Okay, I only got second grade, but I made it. So he gave me the encouragement. But Tan Sri Arshad is an amazing person. Okay, we have met him. I met him many times after that. The second time I met Tan Sri Arshad Ayub when while waiting for my MCE results. At that time, the government chose about 10 to 12 of us in every state to do pre-university studies or A-levels before our exam. The government did not want the Malay students to waste time. So I was chosen. I was lucky enough to be chosen from Kelantan to go and do A-levels at Jalan Osman campus. UITM was known as ITM in those days. And Tan Sri Arshad Ayub was the pengarah. Masa dulu dipanggil pengarah, tak ada jadi vice chancellor nama tu hanya pengarah ya. And that was the second time I met him. The third time I met him again in the board meeting. I was the chairman of a public listed company and Tan Sri Arshad Ayub was the deputy chairman. That was my third time. And of course, we are fated again for the fourth time to be together in a board of Malaysian Lung Foundation, of which is a member, and also was a member of that foundation. So again, I would like to thank Tan Sri Arshad personally for inviting me to speak into this lecture series. The title of my talk today is Sharing Experiential Knowledge in Managing and Entrepreneurship. Is it a very exciting topic for you or is it a boring topic? How many of you think it's an exciting topic? Please raise your hand. Why is it exciting? Can I ask you? Huh? Yes, because you are in the university. This is an academic institution. Okay? Definitely you have academic knowledge, isn't it? Normally, knowledge comes from two sources. One is you have a formal training or education in institutions of higher learning, and another one will be knowledge that you pick it up through your experience. So I'm going to give you something out of the textbooks, okay, today. So I hope I can share some of my experiences with all of you. I'm not going to read my speech. I think it's going to be long. Let me pick some points here. So, as you know, the key word today is knowledge. You talk about K entrepreneurs, K workers. Why K? K stands for knowledge. Why knowledge? Because knowledge can give you the competitive advantage. Why you come to university? Because you want to have that competitive advantage. Without knowledge, you are not going to be somebody. With knowledge, you are going to be somebody. But today, many people, during my time, not many people have tertiary education. Today, there are so many people with tertiary education. So when you have too many, the value will go down, isn't it? So what is your strategy to increase your value? You must have something that others don't have. You cannot be a me too kind of person. You understand or not? Kalau dia ada, saya pun ada juga. Itu tak ada apa. Itu tak ada premium. Okay? Itu kalau marketing dipanggil is a commodity product. Commodity product yang paling murah belilah. Yeah, you cannot charge premium prices because you don't have anything extra than compared to the rest of the people. So many people today have some form of tertiary education. So how do you want to compete? In my case, I was already thinking of how to be better than most people. When I went to study in the United States, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to study in the United States, and that was my first time I was exposed to liberal form of education. Di sini kita kalau belajar engineering all the way. Kalau chemistry. Tidak ada kursus-kursus lain. But the American education system, they practice liberal education. Although I was doing my chemistry and mathematics degree, I'm supposed to do some courses in humanities and social sciences as part of the requirement to get my degree in chemistry and mathematics. Begitu juga, if you are an arts student or business student, you must also have some courses in natural sciences as part of the degree program. This is, I think, very important. When I was involved in the blueprint for higher education a few years ago, and Professor Kama, I think he's not here today, was the secretary of that think tank, I recommended the government that at least at the undergraduate level, our education system must be liberal enough so that we are exposed to other disciplines, because not many of us really know what you really want to do in your life. You think you want to be an engineer, but you end up becoming a marketing person. Okay? I got a scholarship because in those days, if you want to get a scholarship to go overseas, you must be a science student. And you must do science or engineering. You want to do arts, economics, philosophy, tak ada scholarship. Yeah? Tetapi I found that my natural ability is more in the social sciences and humanities. And since I have to fulfill my humanities and the social science requirement, for my humanities, I took a lot of philosophy courses. Although some people say, you are crazy to take philosophy, you know, because I still remember the first philosophy 101. I went in, and the professor was standing in front of the class, I think as big as this auditorium, because 101 normally in a big auditorium, you know. And the professor was asking the student, what is this? People say, yeah, it's a book. How do you know it's a book? Yes, I can see it's a book. And the professor said, maybe you are dreaming. And a lot of my friends left the class. This is a crazy course. But I stayed, and I like the subject. And I think courses like that will open up your mind. Because liberal form of education will avoid you from being simplistic, linear, and dogmatic in your mindset. And I will demonstrate that to you when I was working in Eon as a marketing manager. I did not have any formal training or education in marketing. How many of you study marketing here? Please raise your hand. Ada? Ada seorang. Why? Oh, marketing is not popular. I thought marketing is the best way to go up very fast. You are successful, that's it. They don't care how many years you spend time working, because results matters. Okay? So it doesn't matter. So if you have a liberal form of education with broad-based education, and as you progress in life, you will discover your true liking. And you will find the true, what you call it, calling in life, I call it. I used to attend a lot of these Harvard business courses, a business program on leadership. The key to be a successful person is to discover your calling in life. Apa sebenarnya kita mahu buat dalam hidup kita? Tetapi selalunya kita memilih sesuatu jurusan kerana beasiswa, kerana we want to have the herd mentality. Everybody is going to be engineer. I want to be an engineer, especially the boys. When I ask them, why you want to be an engineer? Well, my friends want to be an engineer. I want to be an engineer. But girls normally don't choose engineering discipline. A few, yes. Is it? But they don't really know why they are doing it. As they progress in life, they will rediscover themselves that their true calling in life is not engineering, ataupun whatever discipline they have taken at the university, and they want to change their profession ataupun what they want to do in life. They are not prepared, and because they don't have a broad-based or liberal education. So I don't know. I should be talking to the ministry about this, okay? But it is important. I think I would like to tell you that this is a very important point for you to understand. And also today, it becomes increasingly important for you to have a diverse background, because to understand that your environment today, you need more than one discipline. Betul tak? Kalau you satu discipline, you jadi toya sikit lah, you tak tahu apa, ada tak? You can interpret in your window, the way you see things. Okay? So, it is important for us to have a broad-based education. But in my case, not only that, I was lucky, since I was studying overseas, and I was very active in student associations. I was the president of the Muslim Student Association and president of Malaysian Student Association in Ohio University when I was doing my undergraduate studies. I think the president before me was Tan Sri Ibrahim Shah. I think he was the UiTM Vice Chancellor once upon a time, isn't it? Okay. So if you become the president of Malaysian student in Ohio University, you become somebody. Okay, so it is important not only to concentrate on your academic knowledge, but you have to also get involved in student activities. Why? I was fortunate because later on in life, I was in managerial positions and I become entrepreneur. What is managing? Can you define me, managing? Anybody take business courses here? What is managing? People pay you so much because you are a good manager. What is managing? Managing is getting results by working with other members of the organization. So you are talking about people. People is the focus. Okay? If you can work with other people to get results, you are a good manager. Okay? In any organization, managerial positions will always attract the big kind of salary. If you want to be successful, you must be able to manage. Okay, how many of you want to become managers or CEOs of companies? Raise your hand. I just want to see. Tak mahu semua? Semua very humble. Raise your hand. Berapa orang nak jadi CEO of companies? Tak mahu jadi CEO. CEO are the ones who get the most salary, highest salary in the company. You all very humble people. Maybe you are Sufis. So this is important because I had not only diverse academic background, but I was also heavily involved in student associations. And student associations, you know, when we were students, we don't have the money. We have to implement things, projects. We must win election. So you learn all that. You don't learn that from your classroom instruction, but you learn in the real world how to deal with people to get results. You just imagine, if I come back with that kind of experience and another fellow graduated from any university with a big book, probably he get better CGPA than me. But you put me and that guy on the job, I think I will excel better than him because I have the added advantage of being a student leader. I know how to win election. I know how to carry out activities of the association with little money. I remember that we don't have a mosque to pray in Ohio University, and I was the president. And I was able to raise money and buy a house and convert it into a mosque at the age of 20. And I later found out there's also another organization, you know, the Mormon Church. Okay? And many of the Mormons are great entrepreneurs. I discovered that Mormons, before they go to university, they must give 2 years of their life serving the church. Either to go to Africa to start a small project there, and then they come back and only they will enter universities. With that kind of training and exposure of 2 years living in foreign country, you know, doing certain projects with the local people, and you come back to do your degree, of course you are a better person. You see, the problem with us today, we are just studying and getting A's, and we are not going to be, we will not guarantee you that you will be a successful person in your career. So it is important for you to understand that you must have other exposure. The early exposure you have, especially in the university, you will have that advantage when you start working. So I have that advantage when I came back. So, as you know that, among the students who graduated, some become successful, well, some are really excel in whatever they do. What makes people very successful? You see, these are the people. It's not only your academic knowledge, it is the other thing that they have that others don't have, that I've mentioned to you earlier. You cannot be a me too kind of person. I have it, you don't have it. Okay? So you must always have that mindset that you want to do better than the rest. And by doing this, you will be better and you will excel in whatever you do. This is very important to have in your mind. And success should not be only one point in time. Kita jangan jadi berjaya hari ini dalam sejarah. Itu tenat. Kalau kita berjaya hari ini dalam sejarah, saya rasa itu tidak memberangsangkan. Kalau saya berjaya hari ini dalam sejarah, I don't think I will be invited today to give this lecture. Betul tak? Ya, kita mau kejayaan kita itu berterusan ataupun success should be sustainable. How to make success sustainable? Bagaimana kita nak kejayaan itu secara berterusan? That is the main issue, the main question that we have to ask ourselves if you want to be a successful person. And to me, to have a continuous success, people must make more right decisions than wrong decisions over time. Do you agree or not? If you make more wrong decisions, you think you can be a successful person? It's not. Okay, you cannot be a successful person. But we also know, as the saying goes, to err is only human. but we have to make more right decisions than wrong decisions. So the net benefit is that it will contribute to the success of the person or the organization. So tentu we cannot say, oh, I will never make wrong decision. We will make some wrong decisions in our life. But the most important thing is that we must make more right decisions than wrong decisions. Okay, so the net effect will be a benefit to us, to make us more successful, or to make our organization that we manage more successful over time. So managing is a process, is a dynamic model. You cannot say, I was successful once upon a time, macam hari ini dalam sejarah. That is not going to be very exciting. Maybe you are lucky to be successful, okay? But you do not know how to manage success moving forward. So, for your success to be sustainable, you must invest in the methodology of making right decisions. I do not know what is the right decision, but if I have the correct methodology and processes in place that will give me a higher probability of making right decisions, I should invest in that methodology or processes. So the key in managing organization or yourself as a person is to invest in the way, in the methodology and processes, so that you will have a higher probability of making success or making a right decision. Very important for you to understand this. And I think many of us do not know how to make decisions. I did not learn how to make decisions in the university. Even I have my master's degree, I went overseas. They never teach you. But in life, that is the most important ability. How many of you went to school or take some courses that teach you how to make right decisions? Tangan, akak. Tak ada. And I did not also had that in the university, but I attended a few courses while working, how to make right decisions. Basically, right decision, you must understand what is your vision, what is the objective. And you must also analyze the issues and the problems that you're confronting. And you match the two, you make right decisions. I mean, in a nutshell, that's how you make right decisions. Okay, now I'd like to talk about managing organization, either as a professional managers or entrepreneurs. In most organizations, the one man that makes a difference in managing the organization is the leader of the organization. Okay, so who is a leader? So who is a leader? So normally a leader is an action-oriented change agent. He's willing to change. When I took Mara Holding and Pak Mei, these are GLCs, they were making huge losses. I was the one man who made the difference. I went there for Mara Holding, it took me 1.5 years to turn around the conglomerate. For Pak Mei Berhad, it took me 1 year. If I was not there, the thing will be the same. They were making losses for many, many years. Okay? So I was conscious that I'm not going to buy this company. Either I turn around the company or I become bankrupt. So the choice is very clear, isn't it? You don't want to be bankrupt. So you have no choice. You have you have only one way, one option to turn around the company. So it's a change agent. A leader must be a change agent of the organization. 2, a leader provides a sense of purpose. Okay? Why we are doing it? Macam dalam Islam kita sembahyang, buat ibadat, kita ada purpose untuk beribadat pada Allah. If there's no purpose, why you do it? For what? Okay? A leader also provides a sense of direction. Where are we heading? Where should we go? Okay? And a leader gives a sense of focus. Because in life, there are so many distractions in your life. Betul tak? You come to the office, at home, so much distraction. And why people are not successful? Because they get carried away. They get carried away with the I call it side vibrations in life. They're not focused enough. I practice the 80-20 principle. The 20% you do gives you 80% of the result. Don't do the opposite. Okay? A leader is that kind of person, okay? So a leader does not have to know everything. He must lead a team of people with a shared vision, motivate and empower his team. So in short, he has to manage people to achieve the desired outcome in a dynamic environment. Okay? I don't know whether you can find this in your textbook, but this is how I came out. Because of my experience again. I defined this through my experience. And that's why I have this in me. Because like you know how to cook. You don't have to refer to recipe book anymore, isn't it? So this is what, from my years of experience, I think a leader is a person who should lead his team, motivate his team, empower them, and also to manage his team to achieve desired outcomes in a dynamic environment. The environment is not static. The problem with us is that in our brain it's static. Every day we are changing. Okay, if you look at your photographs 10 years ago and today, you can see changes. But every day you can't see the change. Betul tak? So changes are happening whether you like it. One factor that you can be certain is change. Nothing else you can be certain. Okay, change is certainly happening every day. So it's important for you to manage your team as a leader in a changing environment. Of course, let me ask you, how many of you want to be a good leader? Raise your hand. Wow, ramai, eh? Okay, please, thank you. How many of you want to be great leaders? Raise your hand. The same person. So, if you have to choose either to be a good or great leader, obviously the obvious choice would be to be a great leader, isn't it? Anybody want to differ? Angkat tangan. Who wants to be good leader, don't want to be great leader? Tangan. Ada tangan? Tak ada. Okay, I think you're all great people. Because obviously great is better than good. Betul tak? You want to be great, you want to be hebat, you want to be just okay lah. You don't want to be that, okay? You want to be a great leader. So what made a person great? You can answer, why Alexander the Great? Or why Britain called Great Britain? Why great? Ada? Anybody want to shout me an answer from the floor? How you get to be great? Huh? You become great because you can achieve outstanding results, or you have extraordinary thing that you can do that not others can easily emulate. Betul tak? Kalau semua boleh buat, you're not going to be great. I can do it, but others cannot do it. Okay, he needs to be the leader of this organization because he will make the difference. The rest of us cannot make the difference. Betul tak? Then the person is a great person. And the results must be not normal results, outstanding results. Boleh macam Kaizen, 2% increase, 3% increase. Itu bukan outstanding. A good manager cannot just use Kaizen, 1-2% improvement over the years. He must improve like leaps and bounds. Then he's a great manager or he's a great leader. So over the course of my career, I was certain that there were certain things that I would like to share with you, especially during my years in various organizations, what I did. And I'm proud to mention those cases, okay? If I have time, I will try to share as much of those experiences, which I hope will benefit you in some way. This is again experiential learning. As I mentioned to you, after my graduation, I was teaching in the university. Many lecturers here, so we share the common interest to be a lecturer. But I never planned to be a lecturer, in fact, In those days, they were looking, I think UPM were looking for econometrician. And I took that in my master's program, because I was a mathematics and statistics. So it was easier for me to take econometrics. That time, art student cannot do econometrics, because it's too heavily, you need a lot of mathematics and statistics. So, but I only lasted for 1 year. Because let me tell you a story. the head of the department, Dr. Ahmad Mazhar, but he's still alive and I do not know. He said, Nadzmi, you young, bright young man, you should not waste your time in the university. And he was my head of the department, he was a professor. He says, you should go into the private sector. Masa tu orang Melayu takut nak masuk private sector dah tak? Saya tak apa dia tu, you masuk dulu lah Petronas ke dulu, GLC tu, then later on you can go in the private sector. So one day I saw an advertisement in the newspaper of offshore contracts manager, BP cari gali. Wah, nak jadi manager tapi tak ada experience. Applied, but I was invited for the interview. I think the one of the interviewers was Tunku Sulaiman, but I know he's from Petronas. He said, Nadzmi, you don't have the necessary experience, but I like your qualification. Can I refer your application to Petronas proper? That's how I landed up my second job in Petronas. Okay, I was in the international marketing division, doing market research, pricing, and refinery economics. Okay, but then again, after a year, this is where I stayed with this group for the next 14 years, HiCom group of companies. I was invited to join HiCom. HiCom was just open at that time. It was not DRB HiCom, the original HiCom. The government of Malaysia, under Dr. Mahathir's leadership in those days, wanted Malaysia to go into heavy industrial project. Mahathir believes that to be an industrialized nation, you have to go into industrial project. And he did not want to have single-digit growth. He wants double-digit growth. So he spearheaded the idea of going into heavy industries. And one of the projects, of course, is the National Car Project. So I was invited to join HiCom without applying. And in those days, they were very choosy about selecting officers for HiCom. We have to present a case study from Harvard. And we went to, I think, in MUI Beach Hotel in Port Dickson to present the case study, and I was selected to join them. So I landed up in HiCom, and in HiCom I started in the projects division to develop the heavy industrial projects. Okay, when the government approved the National Car Project in the early 1980s, so my boss asked me, Nadzmi, are you going to go to Proton, or you are going to stay back? So I was reflecting on myself. I said, I'm not an engineer. If I'm not an engineer, I don't have a good prospect probably in Proton, because Proton is a manufacturing company, isn't it? So I said, I will stay back and develop the distribution company for Proton. That was a code name, HiCom Distribution Company, which later gave birth to Edaran Otomobil Nasional Sdn Bhd, EON. So I became the project officer for EON in HiCom, okay, and developed it, and did studies. How should we distribute and market the national car? Okay, and later I joined EON. I was seconded from HiCom to EON, and I started my career in the marketing division or marketing department in EON. And I told you earlier, I have no formal education and training in marketing, zero. Okay, but I became later the director of marketing. Okay, this is based all on experiential learning, nothing to do with academic knowledge. Of course, I read books on marketing in my spare time, but everything was gained through experience. And I can demonstrate to you some of the innovative and creative things that we have done. When we started EON started with only 4 million in terms of equity. And we do not have enough or sufficient funds to promote and advertise the car. Because advertisement, AMP, we call it in short, AMP, advertising and promotion, normally runs in millions of dollars. But I was tasked as a marketing manager to do advertising and promotions of the car. So what do? You have small budget. If you use the normal approach, there's no way you are going to do it. So this is very important. If you want to be successful in life, you must be creative and innovative. Okay? So with a little budget, I have to think of how to do it. Okay? First, as a marketing manager, I wanted to create awareness of the national car is coming. So what I did, I had a competition to name the first national car. That was my idea as a marketing manager. It's cheap. It's you only press releases, isn't it? And then you give the car later to the winner. And the judges, okay, consolation prizes to the judges, that's all. But the message, you communicate this message to everybody in the country. You see? So you stretch your advertising budget. You have a small budget, but actually it looks big. So you have to have a creative idea of how to do it. And it was successful. Okay, people are talking because you are engaging the whole Malaysian public to name the car. So they'll be talking, what car and all that. And that, I think, became the best strategy to communicate that your car is coming and wait for the car. And everybody was anxiously waiting to see the car. Then, 1 year before we launched the car commercially, we had a prototype. Okay? So, being a marketing manager, I said, why not I do a pre-launch campaign without much money, but I got huge publicity. So, we had a promotional program, code name Saga Rama. I don't know, maybe you're very young here in this room, you know? You don't remember. Maybe my colleagues in front here, Tan Sri, both Tan Sri, maybe you remember this, Saga Rama. What is Saga Rama? Well, Saga Rama was launched 1 year before we start selling the cars. We used a Proton Saga prototype, and we bring this car to every state. And thousands of people in every state waiting to have a glimpse at the car. So this is a cheap way of promoting the car. And you have the Sultan, the Governor, the Menteri Besar there, and all the papers will start covering our event. So this is already also a creative concept, isn't it? So I was leveraging on the patriotism. But today, I don't know, people are not so patriotic today. Maybe I can use the same approach. But that was our creative concept. And I have no formal training in marketing, you know. But you have to think. You see? That's why you must not lose sight. What is the objective? And what do you have? Do you have a problem today? No budget, no money. But the objective is to promote the car. So this is what I did. Saga Rama. So again, we measure the benefit in terms of how many inches of, how many space, how big the spaces in the press, and how many minutes in the electronic media. So we make hundreds of millions of benefit by this kind of promotional program. Then we have no money. So my boss was telling me, hey, you have to find money, Nadzmi. At that time, we were only using shareholders' equity. So to sell the car, it takes a few years. So for the timing, I cannot be asking more money from the shareholders. They already put 4 million. They don't want to put any more money. So I came up with this creative idea, the Proton Special Commemorative Number Plates. I started it. Now people are the NASA, macam-macam Putrajaya, but I started it. Because I know that Malaysia likes number plate. You understand? They pay. Okay, so I said, why not give us this special commemorative number plates? I can have a bidding. So people start bidding, and we make millions of dollars from this commemorative number plates. And that was the only revenue we get from the operation to finance our pre-op for the company. So when we started selling the national car, of course, at that time, Nissan was the number one in the marketplace. So they react. So how do they react? They start to spread negative rumors about our car. And rumors are very effective when you don't have many of your cars on the road. Oh, I think, I heard Proton second-hand value is very bad. You buy today $10,000. depreciated the next day. They spread that kind of rumors. Oh, it cannot climb Genting Highland, not enough power. Because nobody can verify, no car on the road. So it was very effective strategy by our competitor to discredit the car. They want to kill the car before the car can be sold to the public. Nampak tak? And they were very successful because not many cars on the road. Nampak tak? So again, as a young marketing manager, my boss said, hey, you have to solve this problem. How? How can we do it? And I have no formal training and education in marketing. So to me, very simple. What is the problem? The problem is that we have these rumors, which is unfounded, untrue, spread by our competitors to discredit our car. And my job is to make sure the public knows the truth. Because the truth is not that the car has that kind of problem. So how can you tell the truth? If you tell you just advertise, oh no, the car has good resale value. The car can climb Genting Highlands. People are not going to believe you. It's an advertising material, isn't it? Again, I use promotional activity. This is where we started to do a series of sagathon. Who remember sagathon? Sagathon are another promotional program we did depending on the problems in which location, and the sagathon will be tweaked in such a manner. For instance, the first sagathon was implemented in Kuantan because the rumors in Kuantan about our cars was so bad that most of the people who booked the car cancelled their bookings. So I came up with the idea, I said, okay, let's take 100 of Proton cars, invite most of the people who cancel the bookings to drive the car from Kuantan to Genting Highlands. Because they were saying that our car has no power. Ini Nissan punya people. So what we did was, we brought all those most of the people who canceled the bookings and some other prospective customers to drive the car in their family, put them in the Proton Saga cars, and they drove up to the Genting Highlands. When they arrived at the top of Genting Highlands, we have all the TV3, RTM1, RTM2, and our videotapes, and the press. I remember one of them was saying, it's a Chinese customer with all his family, so, wah, ini kereta banyak kuat lah. Tadi saya naik, saya itu overtake semua kereta itu, termasuk Nissan 1301. And it did the job. He is doing advertisement for me. Because if I pay for that kind of advertising material, people don't believe me, isn't it? So I use a news clipping to my advantage and almost zero cost. Of course, we have the advantage because we are a national car, you know. So this is some creative solutions. So what I'm saying here, you have to leverage on your creativity and innovation and experiential knowledge to come up with ideas like that. Because in marketing, there's no textbook thing. What you have to do, you understand? So we have a series of sagathon, including we have it also in Sabah and Sarawak. And by doing this, we were able to squash all those unfounded and untrue rumors about the car. And again, our sales went up. Okay? Then I remember in, I think, 1996, the Japanese yen appreciated. Okay? And it's a good and bad thing, you know? And all the car prices in Malaysia, because 80% of the car sold in Malaysia were from Japanese origin. Either Nissan, Toyota, Mazda, and even Proton. Because our components, some of the components are coming from Japan. So we are not yen-free in terms of the effect. So we also got it. Okay? So our sales figure from well above 2,000 units per month, it went down to about 500 units per month. With 500 units per month, I can even pay salaries and rental. So what do? You have a problem. Okay? So this is something which I learned from my boss. and the late Datuk Gucharan Singh. He was the chief general manager. I was the director of marketing. So he always bounced ideas with me all the time. So he said, Nadzmi, the normal thing that people do, organization, when times are bad, they retrench people. Okay, and one thing good about Datuk Gucharan Singh, he became a chief operating officer from human resource background. And I have no resource background, okay? And he was telling me, Nadzmi, if you retrench people, okay, normally the good ones will take up the separation scheme because they want the money and they don't have a problem getting another job. Isn't it? So you will end up having deadwoods in your company. And deadwoods cannot turn around company. And when the economy slow down after there's an upswing, recover, you will not have the benefit of the upswing of the economy. Isn't it? Because you have deadwoods in your company. Because the most important asset in any organization is always the human resource. Jadi saya belajar dengan dia. This is where I never learned from the university, but from my experience learning from his experience, he says, Nadzmi, you cannot do this. Then what are you going to do? We cannot pay your salary. So we all agree on a pay cut. So we gave speeches to staff, we assembled staff and says, well, we have two choices. We told the staff, you want to stay and don't want to have a pay cut, we have to retrench you. But we think that you all deserve to stay. But I cannot pay you the same salary, so we take the pay cut. But of course, we bosses, we volunteered the highest pay cut. When people see you show by example, they will support you. And people earning 1,000 and below, we didn't cut anything. So because of that, we stick together, and the economy rebound in a year's time. So what we did was we were ready to take the upswing because we have all the people there. So we benefited from the economic upswing, and what we did was we reinstated their salary. So they were very happy. It's a win-win outcome, isn't it? So that was what we did. This is something that if you want to be managers in the future, you must understand that people is the most important asset. Okay, and you should not you should not offer retrenchment benefits during bad times, because the good ones will take and the bad ones will stay. Okay. Then there was another yen appreciation in the late 1980s. Again, we cannot sell cars. So what do? Again, I was already a marketing director then. So my boss was saying, Nadzmi, you must think of how to solve this problem. We cannot sell cars. Okay, this is good when you are trained as a science student or mathematics. You are very analytical. When I look at it, why people are not buying cars? Because the yen went up, so of course the prices of cars went up. So the economic theory, that one I know, I learned from the university. When prices goes up, demand will start shifting to the left. Okay? That is economic theory. Okay, you understand that. Then I says, how you want to solve this? I look at the problem, analyze it, thinking, going back, driving car, you start thinking how to solve the problem. A bright spot came into my mind. I said, Nadzmi, people don't care how much the car costs. The most important thing is how much they have to pay every month to the bank, isn't it? If they can only afford 600 ringgit, that's all. If now it's 800 ringgit, they cannot afford it. So I say, very simple. I'm a mathematics graduate. I say, you stretch the number of years of payment, then it will be lower than even 600 ringgit. I came out with that idea. But most finance companies objected to the idea because you say your car cannot last more than 5 years. So we don't want to take that risk. So what do? You have another problem. Finance company are not supporting you, and you are a marketing director. Your boss look at you. You have to solve a problem. So what do? You analyze again. And this is politics. This is where my engagement with student association becomes handy to me. How you win elections. Okay, but unfortunately, I had never become a politician. Okay, so what I did was, there are so many finance companies. I just take a few who are not getting businesses from us, and so the idea of 60 months credit period, our installment period, from normal 36 months or 42 months, now I stretch the repayment period to 5 years or 60 months. Most finance companies like Public Bank, Maybank, semua tak maulah. They are big. They don't care about you see. So you go to smaller companies. I convince them, I say, you are on my panel of finance companies. And I gave the business to all of them. And it was a roaring success. People are start buying cars again. Because now the payment, the repayment, monthly repayment is lower than before. So it's not the pricing, it's the cash outlay they have to pay every month to the bank. You must understand your customer. So who cares about the pricing? He cares only about how much he has to pay every month to the bank or the finance company, isn't it? So it became a big success. So when it became a big success, the big finance companies have no business. They come begging me to put them on my panel. I see. Dulu dia sombong. Dia jual mahal. Now they come begging. Maybank, Public Bank, semua yang besar-besar bank ni. Or the CEO come and see us. Dulu mana dia jumpa kita? Nampak tak? So this is again, you have to learn. This is spiritual knowledge. You want to do something in life, you have to know which are your priorities, the strategies. This is what we call strategic thinking. You cannot give up. There must be a solution. There are a problem, there must be a solution to it. The only thing is that it's limited by your imagination, that's all. Okay, that is what we have done. And we really made inroads into the car market, and we became a market leader. And we were selling, and we were capturing bigger market share. Okay? Now, we were also lucky. This is not something that we have done, but it's a side benefit. Because of the national car, the local content program, local content of the national car became bigger. Bigger means we are less affected by the yen. Nampak tak? As compared to other cars coming as CBU. CBU means completely built up units, or CKD, which is locally assembled. Japanese cars like Nissan, Toyota, they have higher imported component. The local content was only 20%, whereas Proton has way above 60% local content. So naturally, we are affected, of course, but in a smaller way. So that, what is the result? That created a big gap in pricing. This is economics again. This is something that if you have economics degree, you can understand better. So the gap started widening. When the price gap start widening, we become more attractive and competitive compared to the rest of the car in the industry. So we were penetrating in a big way the Malaysian market. But the one I cannot take credit, okay? It happened. You have to, sometimes you cannot claim credit for what you have not done. This is a windfall. Okay? It's a windfall thing. So, but it has helped us to increase the sales of the car and to capture a bigger market share. Now, I always remember this date, 12th January 1990. What is this date? This date is the date that was called to the Prime Minister's office. It was Dr. Mahathir, who was the Prime Minister then, in his old office, not Putrajaya, the old office. And that was the first time he brought me the news that I will take over as the CEO of Eon. I was a marketing director, but I was never a CEO, even a small company, but now I'm going to be a CEO of a fairly big company. And you know what he said to me, his words, I still remember and still ringing in my ears. Nadzmi, we have no plan to promote you so fast. Then he paused for a while. He said, but anyway, we all decided that you will take over. And the rest is history, they say. Okay, and he lectured me for 1 hour, 10 minutes. Dia kata orang Melayu tak pandai mengurus lah. Dia mention about Malay Water. The Japanese were managing for Malay Water and making 100 of a million every year. When we put Halim, it's not Halim Sa, another Halim. I don't know who's this Halim. And that Halim made losses immediately after that, more than 100 million losses, and was cautioning me, Nadzmi, this is a national car project. You cannot fail. You fail, I fail. Oh, macam mana? You are 36-year-old man, facing the Prime Minister, no experience being a CEO. And the Prime Minister is saying to you, you fail, I fail. Macam mana? Kecupu ke tak? That was the experience I went through. And I tell you, I was also like, I do not know what to say. He lectured me 1 hour, 10 minutes. Okay? And after his lecture, he looked at me. So I have to respond. I said, sir, I only realized one thing. I have a one-way ticket. If I don't make it happen, the future is very bleak for me. So I cannot fail. I must succeed. You see, no, what he said? He responded to me, he said, good, Nadzmi, you realize that. And so now I'm appointed for the first time in my life as the chief executive of a company. So what do you want to do? I went home after the meeting with the Prime Minister. I was panicking. I think about 10 days after that, I have nightmares. I wake up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every day because I was nervous. I didn't know what to do. And of course, as a Muslim, when you cannot, it's beyond your ability, you ask for the big boss up there, isn't it? You sembahyang, tunjuk minta Tuhan bagi taufik hidayah. Then probably God has shown me the way. Say, why you are afraid? You very simple. You look what the last management, the previous management did, and you should do better than that. Even slightly better is also good. If you want to do slightly better than the previous management, it's not difficult, isn't it? So the way I think as a new CEO, I said, at least I must perform the same, if not better. But I want to do better than the previous management. So So what I did was, I focused on doing better than the previous management. That I can prove to my boss, the Prime Minister, that I'm worthy of respect or for the position. So what I did was, in 12 months, I increased the profitability of PBT of Proton by 334%. That is great, isn't it? If you increase by 2 or 10%, it's not great. 334%, from 38 million to 126.9 million. Second year, I made it to about 300 of a million, and the third year before I left for Proton, we made 500 million. Is it? Because in marketing, it's very simple. You show performance. Or if you are in a sales organization. When I did that, obviously, I was on a different league. So for young people in the school today, in the university, please think of this way. You must create an impact in whatever you do. Okay? Because if you don't create impact, nothing. You are nobody. And the outcomes cannot be disputed. It's there. The figures will show, staring at the face of everybody. So when after my 12 months as a CEO of Beyond, I went to see Dr. Mahathir again. And well, I have only a management report at the time, not yet, not even the audited report yet. I briefed him that we have made 334% improvement. Masa tu dia tak percaya. Dia thought, orang Melayu mana boleh buat macam ni? Eric Chow was a Cina ada dah. And Datuk Kuchuran Singh. He was asking, are you sure, Nadzmi, you made so much money? That was his response. He did not believe me. You see? But of course, when it was confirmed, it's easy. And the rest, I don't have to convince him of my ability. Okay? And then, he was a Prime Minister. Definitely a lot of government projects, Tembengkalai and all that. And I was always there to rescue those projects. He will give me. And of course, when I left Proton, he gave me Mara Holding, a worst conglomerate. He was losing so much money every year. And I turned around in 1.5 years. Okay? And also Park May under United Engineers. They were losing so much money. So he asked me to go and take and turn around the company, and it was privatized to me, both companies. Okay? So my experiential knowledge gave me the ability and insight of how to turn around all those companies that came after that. It's not university knowledge. Of course, university knowledge is good. It backed my thinking. Okay? So how you make such a big improvement, like 334%? You are new CEO. You want to create an impact. You want to be in a different league now. You have to prove beyond doubt that you belong to a different league. So to me, very simple. If you want to perform, I look at the whole structure of Eon. At that time, I changed the structure of Eon. Especially when the salespeople were selling accessories, they were also buying accessories. There's a lot of corruption. And even they buy the wrong product at the wrong price, nobody knows. So when I look at it, I said, no, it must go to another department. So if another department gave a wrong price or wrong cost of the product or the wrong specification, at least the salespeople will start shouting at me, at the guy, and I will know. There must be check and balance. If you learn accounting, there's also check and balance, isn't it? So I did that. So by doing this, I reduced corruption substantially. We made millions of dollars plowed back into the company. Okay? That's one. But the subsequent years when I was making 300 million, 400 million, how I did it? Because you have to create an impact. You cannot say, oh, corruption, then after corruption, what? Maybe you save 20 million, 30 million. But you're not going to grow to 300 million to $500 million the following year. So what do? This is something that I would like to share with you. And this is a great story. Okay? And this is again experiential learning. So I was in the United States for 5.5 years. So I see in America, everybody drives automatic transmission cars. Nobody drives manual transmission cars. And I went to Japan, and I see more and more automatic transmission cars are being bought by consumers over there. Then I said, why people are buying more automatic cars all over the world? Because of two things. One, there are more lady drivers. Ladies doesn't want to shift gears. Men, they don't mind rally either. More ladies are coming into the job market, they drive. They don't like manual transmission, they like automatic cars because they wear high heels, you know. Two, more urbanization. Means more traffic congestion. More traffic congestion means what? You don't want to shift gear because it's tiring to drive in the urban areas. It's better to drive automatic transmission car. So when I saw the trend around the world was like that, so I called my director of sales, Dato' Donald Chu. And this guy has no degree. He came from the bottom up. I think some of you know him. I said, Donald, you should order more automatic cars, transmission cars, rather than manual cars. I said, why? I want to create a new trend. No, Nadzmi, you cannot do this. Automatic cars in Malaysia is not popular. That was his immediate response, because he had been in the trade for 22 years. So he was looking at the past to project into the future. But I'm looking at the trend of the industry. This is where your thinking must be different. What happened to Kodak today? You know Kodak, you know? What film Kodak? Kita panggil Amerika called Kodak. Kita sini Kodak. What happened to Kodak? A multi-billion-dollar company listed in New York Stock Exchange went gone overnight. What's the reason? Anybody know? Because that's what I'm trying to allude to you, what I did with automatic transmission. Because Kodak, being a market leader in the film industry, misread the trend of the industry. There was mega trend in the industry to shift into digital, and they were still oblivious of this trend. They said, no. Serious photographers don't take pictures with digital camera. They misread the trend. And I was creating a new trend so that I will be ahead of other competitors, so that I will become undisputed market leader in the market. Because others are not ready to do it. So, but I have first to convince my director of sales. And my director of sales came from the industry, from Tan Chong, Inchcape Brothers, and Won Brothers in those days. So he saw the whole industry. He grew up with the industry. When he was the best sales director in the country, that we picked him from Tan Chong. So Donald was against my idea. So I said, okay, Donald, what's the problem with automatic transmission? So he was telling me, automatic transmission is not popular because if you have to change the transmission, it will cost you like 30% of the cost of the car, 30 to 40%. Slightly below half the cost of the car. So it's become prohibitive for people to use automatic car. Secondly, not many mechanics know how to repair automatic cars, transmission cars. So I say, a problem is a solution to me. You give me a problem, you are giving me a solution. If I have a way of overcoming the problem, I will benefit. So you have to have a creative mind. That's why I think my philosophy background is also very important, to think out of the box. Okay? So what I said is, Donald, I have a solution for you. He said, what is the solution? Very simple. He said, I will have 7 float transmission. That means I take new transmission, 7 unit. I don't know why. I like number 7, so I say 7. I pick just a number from the air, 7 float transmission. Okay? And any car that come into our workshop having a problem with the transmission, don't repair the transmission in situ. You take the faulty transmission, drop the good transmission into the car, and ask the customer to drive. So, what's the problem? No problem, isn't it? And don't charge the new transmission for him. Just charge slightly for the repair job. We have to identify what went wrong to the transmission. Under warranty, we just give the new transmission. And then, what about the old transmission, the faulty transmission? Bring the faulty transmission, because our car carriers go to all showrooms all around the country, put that on the way back. And I hired 2 mechanics just graduated from all this vocational school, so they are very cheap. Teach them how to repair automatic transmission, nothing else. Kalau tidak, you want to train 3,000 mechanics, it costs you millions of dollars, and they will be rusty again, because they don't have much training to repair automatic transmission, and you'll be wasting money on training. I said, forget about training 3,000 mechanics. I hired 2 young mechanics, very junior, but train them to repair automatic transmission. When he comes to the office, he clock at 8 o'clock, 2 transmissions waiting for him to do it. So productivity is skyrocketed. Yeah, because when a person goes to the office and he has to work from the minute he entered the office, obviously the productivity is very high, isn't it? Not when he's working in the workshop waiting for people to come with faulty transmission. So I was able to reduce the cost of repairing automatic transmission. And I also allayed the fear among the customers about automatic transmission. And also I was creating a trend, which is a world trend, a mega trend in the world about automatic transmission. So it was a roaring success. We garnered our market share more than 70%. And even at one point, we hit 80% market share. Can you imagine? Today, market share of Proton is less than 10%. Nampak tak? Jadi, itu yang kata tadi, kejayaan kita, our success should not be hari ini dalam sejarah. But somehow, when you manage the company, you have new CEOs, new people. Somehow this is not being carried out. Okay, so we were able to get 80% market share. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I mean, the rest of the cars, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Mazda, Toyota, Honda, semua ni 20%. Okay? So when you do things like that, obviously the bigger problem is to take over the management of Proton. And I remember at that time, Dr. Mahathir had dinner with me and also with the Japanese management from Proton. And Dr. Mahathir was very angry. They said, hey, you guys are supposed to be here for 2 years, now you lingered for more than 5 years. Of course, the Japanese make money. They were also supplying you with the components, and then you're also managing on Proton side. They know the information from both sides, so they can adjust the transfer pricing, isn't it? But they will not make Proton lose money. They make money, but they control the profit of Proton. Before I took over, they were making about 200 million a year. When I took over, I made $500 million, and the following I made 1 billion. Is it? And this is also another story I would like to relate to you. Well, I can go on and talking, you know. Okay? So I was there in the meeting. Of course, the Japanese were telling Dr. Mahathir, we have a problem of finding the right person in Proton to be the managing director of Proton. So Mahathir was looking at them, pointing his fingers at their faces. I'm not asking you to pick anybody from Proton. You mean the whole of Malaysia you can't find a person to be the managing director of Proton? So, Japan is polite. Height. So, a week after that, I received a call from Japan. They said, we are recommending you to be the new managing director of Proton. So I said, is that a good news or bad news to me? Because at that time, I was also diversifying the Eon business. We bought bank, finance company, insurance company, because Mahathir wanted to diversify. So my strategy was to go into areas where we have a very high degree of success. So I wanted the finance company because we do a lot of financing. But again, the commercial bank license came together with the finance company. That's how Eon Bank started. Okay, maybe I have time, you can ask me in the Q&A session, our diversification program in Eon. Let me go into my Proton days. So I was recommended actually by the Japanese. Okay, probably they think that I'm not an engineer, so I don't know next to nothing about manufacturing of cars, so they can continue milking Proton. Okay, they cannot be recommending somebody who's going to fight them, isn't it? So what I did was, as a new CEO, okay, then when I went to Proton, I was seen as an expert because I've done a very successful stint in Eon. So when I went to Proton, I was confident in myself because I had the experiential learning how to manage companies at the CEO level. So what I did was, in the first few weeks after taking over, we did a visioning and missioning workshop among the senior and top management of Proton. I think that's very important. Also, the subsequent companies I turned around when I became an entrepreneur. I always buy loss-making company because I don't have the money. Okay? The same thing I did, visioning and missioning workshop. I don't hire people. I remember DRB Highcom spent millions of dollars to just do visioning and missioning workshop by a consultant. Actually, it's easy to do it. Okay? So what I did that with my staff in Proton. And to my surprise, they don't even know the mission of Proton. So if you don't know where the direction is, so a leader must give a sense of direction. They don't even know. Mengarut lah, even very senior people, even my deputy, they don't understand. One of them said, untuk mencapai wawasan 2020, I still remember that. We all laugh. Then I said, why you produce Proton cars? You can do other things to achieve wawasan 2020. You see? So they don't even know the basic things like that. So to me, if you go to any organization, you must have a shared vision. You don't have a shared vision, you become pegawai kerajaan, you masuk office every day, buka file, apa masalah hari ini. And you're not going to be a great person by doing that. Even government servants today, they don't do that. Okay, so the visioning and missioning workshop is important to have a shared vision among the members of Proton management team. Where are we heading? And only then we will know exactly how to manage the company. The second thing is that I also made them to understand the economics of Proton. This is where I'm not saying that I'm the best CEO, but most of the CEO of Proton did not understand this. In order for you to be successful in managing any organizations, the key thing is to understand the economics of the organization. An important case, okay? I asked them, how you should manage as a management of Proton? They all kept quiet because most of them were engineers. That's it's not because you're an engineer. I say, no, but some they don't know. But they're bright people. This first class, second upper. They're bright people. There's nothing wrong with their thinking, but only you have to tweak them. That's why a leader must tweak them, so that because they are intelligent, they are good material to work on, but they have no exposure. That's all. So I have to take them one by one. I say, okay, first, when you want to understand the economics of Proton, let me ask you, how much did it take you to produce one car? I think my Datuk Kisah, my deputy, it's about 800, depending on the sophistication of mobile, it's about between 800 million to 1 billion ringgit. Okay, I said, okay, good, okay. We know, to produce a car, you need 800 to 1 billion ringgit. Now, what is the reality in any business? Is you must be able to sell the product, isn't it? If you spend so much money, you can't sell the product, you go bankrupt, isn't it? First, you must know how much it costs you to produce a car. And the second question I ask, that's why I ask process question. I don't ask technical question. Even though I'm not an engineer by training, I can manage an engineering team because I ask process question. I don't ask technical question. So I ask, how much, what type of car that you produce? Do you produce Rolls-Royce, Mercedes-Benz, or what? No, we produce economy class cars. See, they give me the answer. I ask process questions. This is how consultants normally do. And like McKinsey and all that, then they charge you. You give the answer, they charge you back. Because you have the answer, but you don't know it. You don't ask process questions. You don't ask the right question. So you don't have the right answer. So no. So how much the car normally priced within this category is so much and so much. I remember I only make the car only 10% cheaper than Nissan 130Y. And they did the job. And then when the price gap became bigger, of course, the whole market swing to us. That's economic theory again. You must understand that. So I said, you have to sell at that price. What must happen? It's again understanding the economics of Proton. They're all engineers, most of them. So I told them, you can teach them because they are normally engineers are very intelligent people. I said 800 million to 1 billion. Your fixed cost and variable cost. How you reduce your cost? You have to amortize your development cost on a bigger volume. If your denominator is big, if your numerator is big, you must have also big denominator, isn't it? Then your unit cost become lower. If your unit cost is lower and is lower than your selling prices, you're going to make profit, isn't it? So the key thing then, our Malaysian car market was small, 100 over 1,000 units, the whole total industry volume. And normally, for one mold and die that you develop, it can last for 175,000 shots. So the key thing is to utilize 375 shots in about 4 or 5 years the most. Nampak tak? So which means you have to sell about 70,000 cars for the next 5 years. Each year you must, in order for you to be economically viable. So this is what I call economics. Okay? Then, since our domestic market did not have the volume, and I'm now the CEO of Proton, I got to think how to do it. Even you get 100% market share, you're still not going to be successful. And you cannot get 100%. Impossible. Isn't it? So, what do? So, I export the car in a big way. But the problem with export is that you are competing, you are not being protected. There's no more tariff preferential between your car and other cars in the marketplace. In Malaysia, yes, there was a preferential treatment on the tariff that created the price gap. But in the international market, you don't have that. So what do? This is again, I leverage on my managerial economics. I don't belajar managerial economics in it. Okay? That one, I think a priori knowledge came into my thinking. It's not experiential knowledge. In managerial economics, you learn that you should export or you should continue working on the plant if your selling prices is higher than the total variable cost. So I can export the car to UK if my total variable cost is say X, but the price that they're willing to pay me is X plus alpha. X plus alpha is still below my total cost. It's okay, because the total fixed cost per unit is already fixed. You don't export, so you have already incurred. Betul tak? At least you can contribute to your fixed cost if you export on top, above your total variable cost. You understand that? Does it make sense to you? So I was exporting to any market which gives me higher than total variable cost. So that's not going to be enough. So I said, this cannot go on forever and ever. You see, a CEO should not have anything on the table. He should be thinking, there's a value. If you go to my office, I don't like to have all these big files. Like people like to show that they are working, hiding behind the files. My type, I don't hide. I don't have anything on my table. Maybe in and out trade. Because the value that you give to the company is your thinking as a CEO. So what I did, okay, that, I said, I cannot, it's not sustainable. I don't have a plan how to make it sustainable on long-term basis. So what I did was, this is again combined with my theoretical knowledge and my experiential knowledge. I said, okay, we have to divide the two activities or function of Proton: marketing and sales, manufacturing and production. Because I came from both organizations, marketing and sales, and now I'm in manufacturing. And Proton export the car from a department in Proton. The overwhelming culture in Proton is what? Is manufacturing. So they influence the people also in the business division. I remember engineers coming with the broomstick making presentation to distributors all over the world. And they don't even fetch the distributor at the airport because they are not marketing people. So when I saw things like that, I said, no, it can't go this way. So what I did was, I separated the two functions. I created Proton Corporation, which focuses on marketing and sales, both for domestic market and export, and manufacturing is Proton proper. So that, and I don't want the greater culture of Proton to overwhelm the culture of Proton Corporation. I asked Proton Corporation to be in the separate office in Highcom building, not in the plant. By doing this, they are very focused on their activities. Because my thinking was, in marketing, because initially we cannot make money by exporting, but we don't lose money so much. Okay? So what I did was, I said, Dr. Bendio was my executive director for Proton Corporation, Dr. Bendio. For export market, I give you a very attractive prices, which is above my total variable cost for you to penetrate overseas market. But you have to develop the plan. Over the years, you must increase the price positioning of the car well above our total variable cost. Okay, but initially, I give you incentive to penetrate the market. And from my experiential learning, that the value of the car is a function of the unit in operation, UIO. The more cars on the road, and if your car is good, the second-hand value is good, so the resale value is good, and the prices of the car can go up. Okay? So, okay, he understands what I want over time. Because everything is variable in the long term. In the short run, everything is fixed. The one I learned from economic theory, okay? So you can achieve success in the long run. You can dream. So I went to Kisai. I said, Kisai, you are a manufacturing guy, Datuk Kisai. Now you have a 30% cost penalty. I want to see over the years your cost penalty come to zero. Cost penalty means the same type of car that you produce here is 30% higher than in Japan. You compare the same car in Japan because of low volume, because higher component cost in Malaysia at that point in time. So you must reduce your cost penalty. So by doing this, you are splitting a huge problem into two. And you have people who focus on one aspect, another. So that's one way and that's my secret how I turn around most companies. You see a problem, you takut. But you split the big problem, it's just nothing. That's why I say, you give me a loss-making company, I will turn around. But you give me at a cheap price now, because the potential, I earn the potential, because I make my money by turning loss-making companies. Because of my experiential learning. I did not learn that from the university. Okay? So that was how we did it. Okay? And okay, Proton became a $1 billion company in terms of profit. Not only for export, but what we did was I reduced the cost. Because in manufacturing, it's very difficult for you to sell in a big way. But I reduced the cost substantially. I was lucky because the Japanese were making too much money. So this is where my priority knowledge in economics became handy. Okay? You get prices, good prices, competitive prices in what kind of market structure? Siapa belajar economics here? You must apply your theoretical knowledge in real life situation, you know. So I say very simple. Because it's monopolistic, one supplier, so they charge us monopolistic margin, isn't it? Prices. I want to break that monopoly. What I did? Two things. One, I started to localize as fast as I can. And they don't understand what I'm doing. I localize components and parts which they think we are not able to localize. So they put higher prices for those engine, transmissions, move very high. Sometimes more than 50% of the cost of the car. So I localize the engine component first. The cylinder block, macam ni, high comp, apa ni, dekat Glamoury there, casting plant and all that. And the Japanese say, oh no, but the cylinder block is only cost so much. Well, your IPPR in item of price list in the CKD says that it costs so much. See how the Japanese. So they start shifting again the price of the component. You understand? But by doing this, you have reduced your cost substantially because it's a multiplier of 2.2 into plant cost and marketing cost. Into plant cost and translated into car price cost is 2.2. $1 in Proton becomes $2.20 when you sell the car. It's a multiplier. Okay, so if you reduce here, huge saving. And if the market can take at the present prices, you make huge profit. Other way, you're still benefiting, isn't it? So what we did was, I localized those components that they cannot, they think that we cannot do it. I think at one instant, I remember, they did not approve of one component. And I sent 3 times for their testing. It failed. You know, the 4th time, what I did was I gave their component for testing. It also failed. You know what they cheat us? They said, oh, you must fulfill 12 specifications. But actually, you don't need 12. You need only 9. Kalau kita bodoh, we can never hit them back. So I looked at it, I tested with my engineer, I said, crazy, how can we fail? So I sent the same component that we bought from them. It also failed because they sent to independent survey, testing group in Japan. So if the results also failed. So I called them for a meeting. I said, you know, the fourth sample we sent is your part. You also failed. So you do not meet the additional 3. Why you are giving us additional 3 specification higher than your specification? Mega. So these are the things that you do. And this is experiential learning. Okay? And then the second one, how I make more money, the one is to reduce the cost of component. And then the next one, it was, at the time, DRB Highcom was bought by Tan Sri Yahya. Okay? And Tan Sri Yahya was also the agent for Citroën. So he was promoting Citroën cars to be our national car. But it was a lousy car, AX model. Dia tiara. Saya kata orang Kelantan, tegak. Tell me, you go flat on your face. It failed. I was fighting him on that. Arwah ni. So what he did, but I used that I used that, the Citroën car or Tiara to fight against the Japanese, for the Japanese to reduce the component prices. Because now Yahya is a new boss, our chairman and all that. I said, well, I don't know. He's bringing in the Citroën cars to replace your car, because I heard it's cheaper than your car. Of course, it's a 12-year-old car. But I was not in favor. But I used that to start a competitive market structure. When you have a few suppliers, then the prices will come down, isn't it? I said, I will only be like a shopkeeper. You put your price so much, you can only sell so much. So what the Japanese did, they don't want to lose the market share. They don't want to lose their sales of their car, the Saga. So they transfer all the molds and die to me. When they transfer the mold and die to me, I can do it here cheaper. So when it's cheaper, means I don't have to reduce the price of the car. It's already competitive. I make huge margin for each car. And by multiply by the number of volume, you make $1 billion ringgit. That's how I did it. Okay? Now, I don't have much time now. Okay, then I left Proton in May 1996 to become an entrepreneur. Okay? Because the reason why I left, well, I cannot agree with my chairman. He has a different way of managing the company. I have a different way. So I went out. Okay? But initially, of course, Dr. Mohd did not allow me. So finally, I went to his office. He said, Nadzmi, you're very strong-headed, and Yahya is so strong-headed. This is a problem. We have 2 captains in the ship. You cannot have 2 captains, okay? So what you want to do? I said, well, I don't know. I want to see what I want to do, but I want to be an entrepreneur. And he gave me the blessing after 4 times I met him. And it's nice of him to say that, okay, you look around, what you want to do, I will help you. Okay, and one of the things that he helped me is for me to turn around loss-making Mara Holding, and he privatized Mara Holding to me. And also Pak Mei, it's a public listed company doing bus services. It was also losing huge sum of money, and Tan Sri Wahid, our ex-minister, was the CEO at that time. And he thought that was not part of the United Engineers' long-term strategy to have a bus company. So it was sold to me. And Alhamdulillah, I used my experiential knowledge to turn around Pak Mei. And we amalgamated all those buses under Mara Holding and Pak Mei, and we have a new listing called KTB. Now I'm the chairman of the company, Consortium Transnational Berhad. And my pathway of becoming an entrepreneur is from university education, become a professional, and turn entrepreneur. But there are many pathways for you to become entrepreneurs. I'm not saying, but I think my way is less risky. The only thing is that I have to come up with my own money and take higher risk. That's all. Okay? And I know how to manage. Because somebody pay my tuition fees for managing. and I don't have to pay. I have benefited from my professional career in many organizations as a marketing person, as a CEO of the company. When I started to become an entrepreneur by buying companies, I started buying companies and also starting new ones. But I prefer to buy loss-making companies, because what is missing there is management. But startup is very, very difficult. Okay, and if I have I have this choice of either one, I will choose to turn around loss-making company. This is the reason why I think Mas invited me to, Khazanah wanted me to take over Mas, because I lost the bid with Syed Mukhtar or DRB Highcom for Proton, you know. Okay, so Khazanah said, why not you take Mas? But of course, bosses upstairs, because my condition is that I must close Mas, the present Mas, because I don't want to waste my time and resources to turn around such a loss-making company, because you won't understand Mas. What they show you is only what you see. And I got this idea by turning one loss-making company. I changed the management of that company 3 times. I was not able to do it. But it was a small company, so I did not want to go there and do it myself. But I was forced to do it. After 3 times I changed the management, they still lost money. So I went in and looked around. How can I turn around this company? So I came up with this bright idea. That's why I wanted the same thing for Mas. Close this company. It was Osmeta making retract tires. I said, close this company. Since 3 times I changed the management, they were still making money, losses. I will transfer all the production asset and 1 production man in the new company called Osmeta Manufacturing Sudan Berhad. And I became the architect of the new organization. I know exactly, because I'm the architect, isn't it? In 6 months, we turned around the company, and we can even list the company through backdoor listing. You understand? So this is, to me, I prefer loss-making company, because what is missing is management system, isn't it? So I think I've taken, I think, more than 1.5 hours. I can talk more and more, because this is based on my experience. And I think I would like to stop here. And I hope that I'm given the opportunity to answer some of your questions in the Q&A session. Sekian wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.